Today I'm going to be listening to George Crumb's Makrokosmos Volume 2. If you're not familiar with this series of pieces, there are four Makrokosmos, I believe. The first two are for amplified piano. The third one is for two pianos, two percussion. And the fourth one is for piano, four hands, amplified piano, four hands. Um, so this is the most recent one that falls under the solo piano series, which we're doing right now. 12 fantasy pieces after the Zodiac. So, part one is Cancer, Morning Music, Sagittarius, The Mystic Chord, Pisces, Rain Death Variations, Gemini, Twin Suns. Part two is Virgo, Ghost Nocturne for the Druids of Stonehenge, Taurus, Gargoyles, Scorpio, Tora Tora Tora, Aries, A Prophecy of Nostradamus. Part three is Libra, A Cosmic Wind, Aquarius, Voices from Corona Borealis, Leo, Litany of the Galactic Bells, and Capricorn, Agnus Dei. And each one of these parts ends with a movement that is also called a symbol. So let's look at those. I have a feeling it's going to be kind of graphic. So here's the first symbol, Gemini, twin suns. This is the like notated stuff that Crumb's very famous for. This like very beautiful handwritten notation. Okay, then we go to movement 8. We have the Aries one. Looks like that. And then movement 12 is the Agnus Dei, which looks like a peace symbol. If we actually look at how to play these three, I think this one, you start here, right? You go around this section marked A. Then you wait for 7 seconds. That's what that fermata means. And then you move over to this side, right? And I don't know if there's any repeats. I think you just play through it. So the graphical element, I mean, it serves no function other than to look very pretty, and it's a symbol. It's symbolic. This one you perform A, the top half circle, then the inner half circle, B, then C is performed reading this way, right? Then you flip the page over and play D, also from left to right, but with the page flipped. Then E is the inner circle on this side, and then F is the outer circle on the same side. This one, you have A and B are the two inner parts of the peace sign, and then C is the long vertical part of the peace sign, and then D is the circle around it. So that's the order you play these in. This piece was premiered by Robert Miller in New York City at Alice Tilly Hall, November 12th, 1974. In order to execute all the effects in Makrokosmos II, uh, harmonics should be taped. Yeah, so like harmonics and pizzicato notes, you should place tape on the strings, is what is suggested here. And these are all the notes that you need to mark. I believe the ones with the harmonic symbol over top, you need to mark the fifth partial in the case of this bracket. So for example, on the lowest B string, you find the harmonic that sounds that D sharp, right? So what is it again? I think it's like 3 octaves and or maybe it's just two octaves and a major third. So that's for all of these. Uh, the ones over here, what marked with the B bracket, you just have to find the octave harmonic, right? So you just put a piece of tape at the middle of the string, so you know where that is. All the other notes that are not bracketed, you just mark them so that you can find them to play pizzicato, basically. It doesn't matter where along the string you mark them, just mark the string. I think that's what this is for. Notice he doesn't bother with anything above this D natural. The really high notes, I guess, are not super effective with those techniques. There's two types of pizzicato, fingertip and fingernail, uh, with FT and FN as the indications. Same goes for glissandi. They can be played with the fingertip or the fingernail. You can mute the string or dampen it with the hand that's not playing. You can play with the fingernail on the keys, right? So as you're playing the notes, um, like make that sound of the fingernail contacting. For a couple movements, you need other preparations. So there should be a paper inserted in the strings in movement 1. Glass tumblers are needed for movement 5. These are for bending the pitch of the strings. Percussionist wire brush is needed for movement 9. There are sung passages, which, if played by a female pianist, should be taken an octave higher. I guess a more gender inclusive way of saying that would be, if taken by a high voice, sing it an octave higher than written. He gives some notes on how to mic the piano because it should be amplified, and then he has some fermatas, which are very pretty. I think they're straightforward, right? The numbers always indicate the number of seconds. Then there's 3 different sizes of breath mark, which I think is kind of interesting. The whole piece can be played with volume 1, or it can be performed by itself. Do not take excerpts from it. Like, do not play single movements. So the dedicatee, Robert Miller, was an American pianist and attorney, born 1930, died 1981. In 1952, his senior thesis at Princeton University was on Beethoven's Diabelli variations. He specialized in performing music by Northeastern American composers. Milton Babbitt, Stefan Wolpe, Charles Wuorinen, Elliott Carter, Mario Davidovsky. That's interesting. So the synchronism number 6 for piano and electronic sound was for Miller. That's a pretty big one. Interestingly, this Makrokosmos II doesn't come up in the wiki, but I think this is also a very important milestone of American piano music. Roger Sessions' second piano sonata, I guess, is another piece of repertoire associated with him. I don't know if that one was dedicated to him. Okay, so Robert Miller did die of cancer at age 50. So he left at an untimely age. There was an LP released in 1982 dedicated to his memory, which includes his final recording of Wuorinen's Arabia Felix. Cool. Yeah, I love getting to know a little bit of Northeastern American new music history. So I'm gonna have a listen to this. I'm not listening to Volume 1 until a few days from now, so I'm listening to this without the knowledge of that volume, and I'll let you know what I think. I mean, it's an exciting piece because I think of the piano pieces of Crumbs that I have, this is probably like the Macrocosmos are probably the most famous. So yeah, it'll be definitely worth getting into here. Link to a recording is in the video description, and I hope my introduction was able to help get you into it. Okay, cool. So this was an interesting listen. Visually, this is a very striking score. I wish I could see it in person, have a physical one in front of me. I think there's a note earlier that said this is a facsimile printing from the manuscript by the composer. So if you had any doubts, this is in the composer's hand. He did have to write all these staves out by hand, and it's really remarkable in that sense. Uh, of all the piano pieces of his we've seen, it's like the most ambitious in terms of notation. Um, as for the way it sounds, I think it's pretty straightforward the way it presents uh, the different extended techniques. It's very accessible because it's split up into these small movements. You kind of just get one technique after another, and it takes you on a journey, like to the more experimental ones, like they're saved for later. The more straightforward ones are towards the front, and the first part is not very many movements are attacca, and they're all very kind of like almost tonal sounding and simple harmonic spaces. Then it gets more noisy and atonal as the piece progresses. I hesitate to pick a favorite movement or part because, as the composer said before, it does have to kind of be taken in as a whole thing. Um, it's an interesting project. I know that the first Macrocosmos is also 12 fantasy pieces after the Zodiac, so he's setting the same ideas, but they're inspiring different things, I guess. So he's sort of going from the symbolic thing, which is a star sign, and then working outward into a concept, which then becomes a piece. And I guess the first volume has different symbols, right? So he's graphically depicting certain symbols. I guess there's three separate ones in the first volume, and then there's three other ones in this volume. Um, yeah, it's kind of fascinating. Um, it definitely takes some dark turns, especially after each part. One thing that I don't like about the piece is it has a really extended section for whistling, and I can't whistle, so I physically can't play this piece. I think that provides a lot of logistical problems for people because not only do you have to be able to whistle, but you have to be able to do molto vibrato on your whistling, and it's over quite a large range. Like you have to whistle a full octave from G to G. It's pretty demanding, I think. We'll look at Makrokosmos 1. After a brief hiatus, I'm going to a conference for a few days, and I just want to focus on that. Also, I think the time this is going to be uploaded is around New Year's anyways, so you have better things to do, hopefully, than watch these videos, and we'll just sort of meet back in January, I guess, and yeah.